Hey, by the way,
You're good. Okay, I'm launching. Everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just giving everyone a second to get logged in, and then we will get started.
Hey, we've got a crew here today.
We do have a crew here today. There's a little bit of interest around alternative media, just a little bit.
Just a
So,
little bit.
well, thank you everyone for coming. We have got a good crowd on tonight, and we're going to have a great conversation. For those who don't know, Demcast is a 501c4. We focus on digital messaging. And obviously, right now, this is very critical. We know from the last election that people who got their news from social media went for Trump, except in one platform. The one platform that went for Harris that got their news from social media was TikTok. All other platforms went for Trump. So, and obviously, people in this room did a lot helping that with TikTok. So we are so excited to be joined by some special guests. We have Isaiah Martin. If you're not following him on TikTok, you need to be. He does great TikTok lives where he debates Republicans with a smile, too. I don't know how he does it because I would just be having a meltdown. So, and then Jessica Craven has a huge TikTok. Where she actually does calls to action, shows how easy it is to call your representatives, and some great Substacks with calls to action. And then we have our very own Nick, who has started a podcast, and I'm excited because I get to put him in the hot seat tonight. Hey! And of course, with James and Tiffany from 11 Films. If you guys have questions throughout this, please use the Q&A. Chat goes by way too fast. And then introduce yourself in chat. So, you know, so we're going to kind of do a panelist. And so how do you guys see alternative media evolving in the futures? And what challenges and opportunities do you think this is going to face? Because we're behind right now.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I just want to thank everybody. I think this is going to be an amazing panel for us to talk about the future. And I think at this moment in which Democrats are at a crossroads, we're looking for what's going to bring us to the next frontier. And I think TikTok is obviously something that will do that. Every night I get about like 25,000 people that watch me debate Trump supporters. And it shows the level of interest that are out there. There's people on all different walks of life that are talking on TikTok, that are getting their news from TikTok, because people want to hear from people that they feel are authentic, people that they trust, people that they can build some type of relationship that doesn't seem like they're too far and too distant. So the work that is being done by everybody, that's on this call is going to be imperative for this next generation because the Republicans are doing everything they can to get rid of every kind of medium that's out there for us. And so TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of these avenues are good tools for us to build for the future.
Yeah, and I think we can expect a pretty significant game of whack-a-mole across all of these alternative media options slash platforms. We should and are expecting the Trump administration to do whatever they can to quash voices that are bringing up topics that are not desirable to them. But that just means we got to triple down on it because we all know, and it's just an important point to make up front, that corporate media is not going to be helpful in Trump 2.0. And we can't trust them to have the best interests of America at heart because they're corporate owned. And whether those corporate owners are just in the bag for Trump or they're scared of him, there's going to be a lot of pressure even on like really high quality journalists who work at those institutions to kill stories and to share administration friendly information. So we got to do an end run around the traditional media, and so Jessica on her Substack and on TikTok and Instagram, and Isaiah on his TikTok, and us on YouTube, and on as a podcast, it's an all-in approach. We have to reach people where they are, and Isaiah's point about authenticity is super important, and I'm sure we'll keep talking about that as we go tonight.
For sure. And I would say also that so far since we've launched the Dangerous Ones, we've had surprisingly good metrics across all platforms. We haven't been suppressed yet, where I thought we would be, like on Meta and obviously on X. So far, so good in Trump 2.0. The message is getting out there. I'm happy to see that, but I'm quite sure it's coming.
Oh, for sure. And even I know it's reached the other side. I know it's reached MAGA because their comments are starting to come in.
Oh, yeah,
it is not nearly the level of hate yet that I am used to experiencing as 11 films. So that's sort of encouraging.
Yeah,
It's like, well, what the fuck can you even say?
I thought in this new era, but with Meta now kind of unlocking the door, in one way, it's a completely bad thing, allowing all the disinformation and all of that. But they seem, Threads was not going to promote political content until just recently. And in a lot of ways, guys, that's really, really a big deal. The fact that they are now doing that, that promotes a lot of bad stuff too. But that also allows guys like all of us to get in as well. So far, so good. I'm definitely extremely excited to report that, but there needs to be more of us. There should be 50 creators on this call that are making content, which there are, but I mean, that make 50 more that make content. Keep making content out there. Start a podcast, do those types of things. It is extremely important.
It's empty. It feels like we need
It does.
more. Yeah, like come on, we gotta, and it's here for the taking. It's here for us to build exactly what we want. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, that leads me to my next question. So if people are interested in learning how to do TikTok videos, because it can be intimidating to talk to a camera, to write, to put yourself out there, what advice do you have to people who are looking to start up a Substack, a podcast, a TikTok account? Because I mean, it takes work. When you're creating content and not just posting, it's obviously a lot more work. I think it's worth it. But what advice do you guys have? Go, Jessica.
Be authentic. That is the 100% advice that I have. My experience on TikTok is that, like, I never meant to become a TikTok content creator. The whole thing happened by accident. But I think that what happens is when I speak, I'm very passionate about what I talk about. And obviously, like, I'm not trying to be anything other than what I am. And people really respond to that. They responded to it 4 years ago when I started on TikTok. And at this point, it's like all they respond to. They just want to see people in their natural element talking naturally about things that they really care about. And if you care about something and you've got a little bit of enthusiasm and some knowledge, people will listen. I don't know. I feel like I would not get too caught up in like what background you have or what like lighting situation you have. Like when I started doing TikToks, I was doing them in my bedroom because it was during COVID, just on the bed. All the time, on the bed with a blank white wall behind me and a pillow. And then sometimes I would go into my husband's garage and there would be like paint cans behind me. And it didn't really matter. I mean, it's only ever really seemed to matter to people if I'm talking about something that is meaningful to them. And so, yeah, I would say like the perfect is the enemy of the good as far as these platforms go. Like, just start creating. As long as your facts are relatively straight, because it's very difficult to, you can't go back and correct things later. Um, but just try it. It's people are just looking for real people to help them understand what's happening and what they can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I mean, it's really just being authentic and just being yourself. I know it sounds kind of, cliche or whatever, but I think Jessica's 100% right. If you just get up there and you just start making content and you're making sure that it's accurate, people will listen. I would definitely say, just keep on putting out as much content as you can. Because I noticed that for me, the more the content that I originally put out, the more I started to realize what works and what didn't, especially for my audience. And then once I kind of built that niche is when things really started to take off. So only you can know that. Like Jessica said, the perfect ring light, the perfect camera, and all that stuff is not really important. It's just making sure that you can get out, be your best self, be authentic, and people will listen. It's 100%.
Yeah, and I would say, just a little bit of our story. Tiff and I started in our family room, and I don't. Tiff and I, neither of us have a degree in video editing and filmmaking, so it's real easy to think that you get imposter syndrome, right? Don't let that affect you at all. It doesn't matter if you've gone to school to video edit. It doesn't matter if you've gone to school on how to work a camera. But one piece of advice I would give everybody is Tiffany and I have become experts at being able to create something, look at it, step back, and look at it again as if we didn't create it. And you really have to be honest with yourself. Is this any good? Is this not any good? Am I making any sense? Just because my mom thought it was good or my brother thought it was good,
Or even I thought it was good.
just because Tiffany thought it was good doesn't always mean it is. You got to become your own critic. And that's one of the greatest pieces of advice I can give to anybody is become an expert at being your own critic. And once you're able to do that and be honest with yourself, you'll create a lot of bad videos before you create a good one. And once you create a good one, it'll take a lot of good ones before you create a special one. And then you'll start creating a whole bunch of special videos. And that's what it is, guys. When I look back at the videos we created in 2011, 12, 13, and then again in 18, I cringe. I completely cringe.
Sure.
I'm like, why? I can't believe I did any of that. But you just get better over time and you really start to hone in on what people like. And by the time we hit 2018, we were just fortunate enough that lots and lots of people agree.
Yeah.
And here we are. So don't let imposter syndrome sink in. It doesn't matter if you've gone to school, become an expert at being a critic and make a bunch of terrible stuff before you make a bunch of great stuff.
But and also don't let it is important, as James is saying, to become a critic of your content, but also don't let that critical eye get in the way of you just pushing stuff out.
For sure.
Because it's a lot of that trial and error. You'll see with your audience what works and what doesn't work. And so don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, for sure.
And if you don't know what to do or what to say or how you even look saying it, just walk around your house and practice to yourself. Just
oh my God,
take
yeah.
videos of yourself talking about something that you love, even if it has nothing to do with what you want to start putting out, just to get in the practice and be comfortable of talking to a camera, because it's weird if you're not used to it. It's fucking weird, So.
And I would also say one last thing is when Tiff and I started making videos for Twitter back in 2018. In 2018, there was no Midas Touch, there was no Lincoln Project, there was none of that was there. And so Tiff and I just started putting them out, and there was no videos, if I may say, there was no videos that looked like our videos that used music as kind of the main force of the video for political stuff. And so we didn't even have anything to kind of cheat from other than like
We didn't have anything to go by.
But we're MTV generation, so that's what we kind of stole from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't know. There's no template out there of like what a political video is supposed to look like. The only thing out there was like a campaign video or something.
Yeah.
We're like, well, we're really pissed about this and this is great music. Let's see if other people are pissed. And guess what?
So don't be afraid to try things that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Innovate.
Innovate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a creative space. So just we're all the people on your side are very supportive of what you're doing.
Sure.
So just put it out there.
Yeah.
Test it with a couple of us and see, like, is this making sense? Is this, we're all here for each
We've
other.
done that. We've done
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
The naysayers and the critics in your comment defeat you too. So
Good point.
Because they'll
Yeah.
always be there. So just it is what it is.
Yeah.
People are gonna people, you know.
I don't read them, to be honest with you. I just
Good.
let the trolls say the trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
that's very good advice not to read it. So yeah, is there a way that this alternative media ecosystem can kind of work together to, help boost everybody? And how do we take that and then get it on social media so more people are aware of what people in this room are doing? Because we know the big ones. We know the Brian Tyler Cohens. We know the Midas Touch. And I love what they're doing personally. They don't resonate with me. And because, again, I don't feel the authenticity that I feel from the people in this room. But how can we all work together to make sure that this ecosystem is in place for the 2016 or 2026 midterms? Because if we don't win, it could be our last election.
Good. Oh, I would just say, first of all, we would never be on this call if it wasn't for other people who had much bigger accounts than us, sharing us. And I thank God every day for people who were generous enough to help us push. They didn't even know us. I mean, they just liked the content, but we have got to, and Tiff and I definitely try to with 11 films. We try to share as many creators as we can. But so bigger accounts have to share the other accounts and really become as a group, as an entire movement, we've all got to really share other people. We really got to share content that people make. Now, listen, and again, that goes back to being a critic of what you do. People send us stuff all the time. And some of the stuff I'm like, I love where your heart is, man, but you got to spend a little bit more time on something like that, because you can't share everything, obviously. It's not possible. So it's like when you ask somebody to share something, make sure it's the best thing you got. You know what I mean? Put your best foot forward and say, and you know what I mean? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, when you ask somebody to share a piece of a video you've made, especially if it's a bigger account, I suggest make sure it's good, right?
And I mean, outside of social sharing, I think to the extent that we can cross-pollinate, Jessica and us should do a Substack live together, so that our subscribers can meet her. And I mean, probably all of our subscribers already subscribe to the Chop Wood Carry Water because it's a great publication, but that kind of stuff, we've met some really interesting folks in the YouTube space in the last couple months as we've been trying to launch this, who are going to have us come on their YouTube program to talk about the dangerous ones, and we'll reciprocate that. So I think just trying to cross-pollinate as much as possible and lift each other up.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who believe in the more the merrier. And so, look, I think there's all kind of different folks who message in all kind of different ways. And I think that pretty much everyone that you see that, we're all on the same team. We're all going in the same direction. And so, look, if you find a content creator that you believe in, that's definitely somebody that you should watch. I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, as we're all moving forward, trying to get better, trying to keep moving forward, everybody's going to have their own communication styles.
If you don't want to make content, sharing your favorite creators on social media to help your friends see about them. So I think that is such a simple thing that we can do. And, one thing I've noticed in the last 3 weeks is that US media seems to be suppressing a lot. Like I found out from TikTok that Canada is preparing for war because they're convinced that the US is going to invade them. So, what role is alternative media going to be playing in this next 2 to 4 years to making sure that we have this information that the mainstream media is trying to suppress?
Well, I would say that I think one of the most important things that we're all going to have to do is really get a good, for lack of better words, BS detector. Like what Trump loves to do is just to throw a bunch of crazy stuff out there, throw something against the wall and see if it sticks, right? And he does this so we don't pay attention to him trying to go and play with the cookie jar of Social Security. So we don't pay attention to what he's doing with our tax dollars, what Doge is really doing to pave way for $11 trillion worth of tax cuts. All of that stuff is what he really wants to do. So he's going to do things like the Gulf of America. He's going to do things like to try to get our attention spans away from the ball. So I think in order for us as content creators, as well as everybody that's in here, we have to be able to go see what's real, see what's not. And the things that are real, like the way that egg prices have continuously gone up since the election has started, gas prices are up, inflation's up, everything is up. We need to really hammer him on that message. And I feel very confident in the work of all of us because I've been seeing us do that.
I would also, and I would say that accuracy on our side is key. We have a video out right now where we talk about, because there's going to be, they say that there might be 5 trillionaires in the next decade. So we talked about in the video what you could buy with $1 trillion. And I made sure, I mean, we must have made sure like 20 times before we put that video out that was really true. It's, the other side don't care, we have to care. And so I think accuracy is gonna be key for our side moving forward.
Jessica, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, well, I think that Substack to me seems to be a place where we are seeing a sort of explosion when we talk about new media and alternate places to get information. I don't even look at the Washington Post or New York Times anymore. I read everything on Substack, and then I have a couple of news aggregators that will, like Political Wire, who will sort of tell me what articles I want to look at. But over on Substack, we're just seeing an incredible influx of great reporters and great journalists who have come away from mainstream media and to Substack. And so I think that's another really good place to get news. But the average American is just not reading. They're not getting their news through reading. So I think a service we can provide is, because lots of us are readers, is to read our news and then find ways to disseminate it simply and in ways that people can understand. And that is a way that we can build a bridge to information. Because, I did a video today about why like defunding USAID is a really, really bad idea. People don't know what USAID even does. My husband said he heard someone saying on a radio call-in show, well, how much of the USAID money goes to the United States after all? Well, none of it goes directly to the United States. It's overseas, it's foreign aid, but like helps the United States in all kinds of ways. People don't know what percentage of our budget goes to the USAID. There's all these things. Why does it protect American security? People don't know. So our job becomes educating. Like, unfortunately, our educational system has really failed us in terms of civics and politics. And so another thing we can do is just like never assume that people know anything. Never assume that they know what their US senator is versus their state senator. Like, there's no limit to the number of things that people should know. And I don't mean to diss people, but it's just our system has failed them. So there's a real opportunity in there to educate and to spread even just very basic information about what our different systems are doing, because people can't be upset about them being taken away from us if they don't know why they were there in the first place. I hope that answered the question, but that was just sort of what I was thinking.
I just want to piggyback on that, and 'cause she's 100% right. The question that I always try to use when I'm trying to disseminate what to talk about is, how does this affect you? What does this do to affect your life? Does him flying over the Gulf of Mexico and renaming this the Gulf of America affect your life? No, it doesn't. But him going and putting his fingers into the cookie jar of Social Security does. Him getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that goes and stops all of these companies from ripping you off does. So we have to make sure that the things that we're communicating are always continuously locked into the question of what does this do to affect you, your daily life, and the things that you care about.
I would also say we should assume that everybody has been lied to already and may believe some of those things. So, as we're educating people, we also have to be a little creative about it in some ways, because as we found, just telling them the facts, it doesn't always work, because they're like, yeah, but this is the truth. And you're like, no, that's not the truth. And so we have to be a little creative on how, and by the way, I don't have the answer on that, the perfect answer, but I would say always going in with the mindset that there's a chance that everybody who's about to read this fact that I'm going to drop on the internet has been lied to about this fact. And so,
There's actually there was an interview this week that I thought was pretty interesting. I was sharing this to a couple members, and I thought it was spot on. Some people didn't like it, but I did. It was an interview from Jack Schlossberg, and essentially where he was talking about how to break through. And ultimately, it is true that, just talking about the facts doesn't really get people anymore. You got to make sure that you're using language that pops out at people, and they say, "Whoa." It makes them think. You can't just say, hey, the price of eggs are up. You got to tie it to some cool, crazy thing to make sure that people can get attention to it. So I always try to do that on TikTok and Twitter. I don't like to say just like, oh, the eggs are up. I'll be like, look, this man went and spent $16 million on Super Bowl commercials for the Border Patrol Union while literally he told you were going to get a decrease in your egg prices and you didn't. So it's always just finding new ways to wrap up things in a fun, better way.
and I would also say too that we've learned a lot over the years. I know with 11 films is just, in the beginning, I think we might have been screaming a lot, and where you find over time that, and we've sat in a lot of meetings and things like that, where you find that just screaming at the other side the facts doesn't work.
Yeah.
That just immediately turns them off. They tune out. And so he couldn't be more right that you have to be creative on how you're going to deliver.
I think that's where authenticity comes in again. Like, break it down for people. If you're really good at digesting those facts, now it's our responsibility to turn around and break it down for everybody about how, like, did you know each egg is $2 or whatever you're passionate about? Like, if your lane is, I'm really good at making memes, or I'm really good at making TikToks, or I'm really good at long form writing on Substack, or I could do a 30-second video of something. Just start doing it and getting it out there, because we're building this huge, it's an army, because this is a digital war. That is what there are landmines going off. They're firing RPGs at us, like they're spraying the room, and we're all just kind of standing there and taking it. And so we need everybody to start defending, start firing back.
And real quick, I'll just say that right now, currently, we, like I was saying before, we have a video about trillionaires and how much you can buy with $1 trillion. Right now, it's doing really well on TikTok and Instagram. And it's doing really well because we centered the video around Super Bowl. And what can you buy with $1 trillion? Well, you can buy every NFL, MLB, NHL, and NBA team. All of them. You can buy every team 3 times. Plus, you can buy General Motors, Ford, KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell with $1 trillion and still have $10 billion left over. And we centered that fact. See, you can see the shock already. And because we launched that the night prior to the Super Bowl, we knew it would probably do well, and sure enough, it did. It's over. It's going to hit 1 million on Instagram and almost 500,000 on TikTok. So be creative about how you launch it. Timing is everything as well. And it's also a fun fact. It's one of the things about storytelling, and I would tell this to everybody, is remember, when you tell a story, be sure to tell something that the viewer didn't know. There needs to be a surprise in every story, because that makes it like, whoa, wow, that's wild. And that gives them value. And so so just a couple of a little tips
And
there.
centering that around Super Bowl, that is seed planting. And that's the other thing we're here to do is just plant seeds. Just throw them out into the wind. Tell them a little fact that they don't know. See if it catches. It might not catch
Yeah.
them, but it'll catch somebody else. And
Yeah.
then they'll tell somebody else. And now you're going like this, you know?
And we had no idea if it was going to work, but
Yeah.
it did.
Just
So
thought, well, let's try it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you never know what's going to work. Something
You
will
don't.
resonate. And, and one of the most important roles of alternative media, too, is going to be holding those people in power accountable, because we know mainstream media will not do it. They will not call out Trump. They won't call out Musk. We're seeing couple of Republicans speaking out when they're realizing what's happening to their own state, but mainstream media is not going to be holding those in power accountable. And we know Republicans are going to be lying and trying to push the blame of everything happening onto Democrats, because even though they're pushing this through, they don't want to take credit for it because it's going to be unpopular. So what role is alternative media going to have in that critical part of holding people in power accountable?
it's everything, right? I mean, we are the only ones left that are going to be fighting against this, and that's why I think what Demcast does is so great, being able to amplify the truth. And so our role, alternative media's role, is just that, to put out the truth. And again, we've got to be accurate as much as we possibly can be. But I mean, it's everything. If it wasn't for us, I'd be scared. If it wasn't for alternative media, I'd be scared.
Me too.
Truly.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I think it's going to be us that is going to be able to reach the masses of people at a time in which the big dogs refuse to do anything to call these guys out. I think that also we are people who can provide hope in periods of time in which it looks like the sky is falling. We can use it to remind people about, the crazy stuff we've been through in the past, the crazy stuff that we've gotten out of, and I think that can really provide hope for people. I just think that ultimately, the future is going to be surrounded by people who can build relationships with their audience, people who can, when they see your video pop up, they say, you know what, I'm going to stop scrolling because I know that that person, man or woman, they know what they're going to say something that I really resonate with. That's the kind of relationships that we need to build in our party, because Republicans have been doing it for quite some time. They got all these talking heads that are just talking as much as they want, and they have their own audiences, and people feel connected to the things they say. We need to do that exact same thing, but make sure that ours is anchored around truth, because when we do that, people will resonate and they'll listen.
Three more.
And what ideas do you guys have for improving our messaging? Because one way we're at a disadvantage, we are not, we will never do the 3 talking points in unison because we are the big tent ticket. And so how do we improve our messaging? And I see Isaiah's jumping to answer that one.
I would say, look, I love this question because I get it all the time. Look, number one, we do have to make sure that, yes, we are putting stuff out there, but it's got to be authentic. We have to say things in our own voice. If you get talking points, right, and you agree with them, don't copy and paste the talking point. Maybe make sure that you keep the message the same, right? But make sure you say it in a way that your people are going to resonate with. That's how it becomes authentic, because you don't want to make it look like, the DNC offices just came through and they called every single Democrat in America and they told us to go through and say the exact same sentence the exact same way. Make sure that you're staying unique while also repeating the message. And when we do that and we drive that narrative home, that's how we're going to connect with not just our people, but for also people that are outside of the spectrum, because people have really good BS detectors. And if they feel as if something is changed, something is forced, they'll tune you out before even going in and looking at your content.
I would add to that. I think that's true. And also, there are a couple of things that I try to hit in every single communication. I mean, I'm talking less about Substack right now, And I think because no one really knows who I am. There were no introductions at the beginning. So I have a Substack newsletter and a social media channel. So they do very different things. The newsletter gives people actions, but on social media, I do more sort of explainers um, but one thing I try to hit in almost every single communication is drawing the connection for people between the Republicans' policies and cutting taxes, so that everything comes down to you are going to lose a bunch of stuff because people have really deep built-in loss aversion. This is something I learned from Celinda Lake, who's a really great longtime pollster and political strategist. So you want to constantly be reminding them of the fact that they are losing things. They are going to lose things. Things are going to be taken away from them to give rich people tax cuts. And that's true. And that's been true. That's Republican policy for the last 50 years. But I find it is useful to work that into every single. So if I'm talking about that they're going to cut the EPA, remember, this is all because they want to quote unquote save money so that they can give giant tax cuts to the richest people in the country who literally cannot spend the money that they have. And when we remind them of that over and over again, because, people are not as informed as we think. And someone was asking, how do we convince the base? We don't have to convince the base. The base is mostly lost. I am looking to talk to the 90 million people who didn't vote in this election at all, or the several million people who made their decision the day of the election and literally were going back and forth and then just went for Trump at the last minute for whatever reasons. I believe a lot of it is actually just misogyny and racism, but that we need to draw those lines for them. And so one of the things I really encourage people to do is find a couple of through lines and return to them over and over. And what I would like to see Democrats doing, and to some extent they are, is returning to that through line all the time, because it's not popular and you can get to it a million different ways, because everything Republicans are doing is because of that. So you keep returning to the fact that they're taking things away from you to give themselves more money. And that's really deeply unpopular. It's simple, people can understand it, and it's a template that you can put on top of anything that is happening because it fits on all of it. So that's where I try to go and to encourage other people to go.
I'm going to ask Isaiah if you're going to run for Congress again.
I'm not gonna break any news, but I might have an announcement one of these days that a lot of you guys might like. So
Yeah.
On the spot.
Where do you live, Isaiah? What state are you in?
Houston, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Super excited. So
We've got some questions. What are your guys' thoughts about going on to Truth Social? I personally won't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but maybe other people have different opinions.
yeah, personally, it's not really something I'm into. I'm very big at staying on Twitter, and I'm also really big on Blue Sky as well. But I mean, Truth Social to me is just a vat of just Republican bullshit, if I'm just being honest with you. So, I don't really have any interest in going on over there. I think that we can reach the people that we need to convert with conversion voting on Twitter. I know there's a lot of hate on there, but I do think it's worth us staying out there to continue to get that message out for those people that are not always consistently politically engaged. But it's also very important that we use Blue Sky as well, because it's a really good tool to reach our base and get them really, really critical messaging, because they can go out on their own networks and disseminate that out to the people.
Yeah, I mean, and we thought a lot about what platforms to be on, with the dangerous ones, and I'm not. I haven't 100% ruled out that, but I would say that I'm not interested in death threats and things like that. They're not a lot of fun, and I mean, there's a reason why Tiff and I don't really use our real last names publicly. I'm sure it'd be real easy for people to Google them, but I'd rather make people go that extra step. So we did decide to stay on X. I think that's important. But boy, there's part of me that still goes, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I could go on there, but I just don't know about if I want to take on that much hate, and is it worth it to convert 2-3 people? I don't know. I don't know, man.
I don't know if it's a place where you can convert people, but like if it depends on where your heart is. If you love shit posting,
Yeah.
that is the place for you. If
Yeah.
you love rustling their jimmies, go, because we need that too. But I personally, just even being a woman, like I left Twitter. I'm not on, my personal account is not on there because of the hatred and the threats. It's personal. They could get to my email. I've been sent pictures of my kids at school. Like I'm just too old now. I'm gonna fight over here, like I was a shit poster in the day too, but I don't do that anymore. That's just not where my heart is.
Yeah, I would just echo everything and just say probably the sweet spot for any folks from our side being over on that platform is the shit posters, like people who will go and ruffle feathers over there. I think the like alternative media outlets being on there, it's not going to work super well, or even influencers. And just to back up Isaiah on staying on Twitter, and it's everybody's. What we say at Demcast is be where you're comfortable, and if you're not comfortable there, then get the fuck out. Like whether it's because you don't like the aesthetics of the site or because you don't feel safe there, like if you're not comfortable somewhere, you're not going to be effective as a messenger on that platform. But if you are and you can take it, I bring this up every once in a while. I still have a Twitter alt account that's for Major League Baseball because I love Major League Baseball. And a lot of us who are like really politically focused forget that there's still millions and millions and millions of people on Twitter who are there because of baseball and football and music and lots of other stuff. And so when we do collective actions on that platform and we get something trending, or we just do a social media blast or a digital rally, and we can pierce through those algorithmic bubbles and reach some of those people who are only tangentially paying attention to politics, and there's still value there. So I totally agree with Isaiah personally on that front, but totally understand when and if people feel like they want to abandon it.
And I would say though, really quick, is I think one of the coolest moves I saw during the election was when Kamala HQ got a Truth Social account. I went, that's freaking cool, man. And it just, that move right there was so awesome that it just makes me go, are you sure you don't want to get a Dangerous Ones account just to like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm certainly a troll at heart, but Truth Social, I don't know.
There's value in lurking there too. So you can get some intel on what are they talking about? What is really, what are they concerned about? That there is value in that too. So if you love lurking.
I have a lurk account there. I do have a lurk account just to keep an eye on things. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I have been doing recently to kind of reach that crowd. On TikTok, I've been joining what I call MAGA Lives, right? Which is basically they'll be having these TikTok debates, and there'll be like 8 Trump supporters, and then they just have like 1 Democrat. And so I'll just like go in and just like piss them off real quick. And it's been great. We've seen some pretty good crash outs. Like, they're absolutely losing their mind when we do stuff like that. But the reason why I do it is not really to change the minds of the 8 people that are Trump supporters, but it's for the people that will eventually be joining, that might be passing by and say, wow, you know what? That was a question I always had for a Democrat, but I never heard a real answer for. So I've seen, and I've had so many people that are independents, or even Republicans messaged me and said, I appreciate that. It got me to think about things a little bit differently. So, I'm all in for, reaching these people in every way we can, but, just making sure it's constructive and it's in a way that people that are outside of, the Trump bubble can also see it as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've seen this question a lot. We will, in the follow-up email, send out the links for everybody to be able to follow everyone on social media, to sign up for Substacks. But I did see a question in Substack that I think Jessica are going to be best to answer. Is there a way to get like a list of the best, most reputable Substacks to follow and subscribe to?
I mean, I have a list of the ones I subscribe to. I don't know if there's just like a list somewhere, I mean, I can tell you some of the ones I follow that I really like if anyone's interested. I think Robert Hubble is a really fantastic way of getting the news delivered to you in one calm nightly email. But I can post these. Heather Cox Richardson is great. If you're interested in legal stuff, Joyce Vance is indispensable. If you are supporting trans rights, which I hope you are, Erin Reed is indispensable. If you're interested in abortion rights, Jessica Valenti has like the abortion newsletter on Substack. If you're interested in climate, heated, like for every subject you're interested in, there's a phenomenal Substack about antitrust and monopolies called Big by Matt Stoller, which is fantastic. I mean, there's just really good people writing over there, and it's nice because you can break it down by subject matter. So I can post a link to I've got sort of a list of those Substacks, but it's really good over there. And there's also a lot of people, which is relevant to this. Demcast has a great Substack. And there's a bunch of other messaging Substacks that are really good that will really talk to you about like, here's how we should talk about this and why it matters to talk about it this way. So it's just great. I mean, if you geek out on that kind of thing, which I do, that is a really, those are a lot of fun. And there's just something for everybody on Substack. And of course, there's millions of Substacks about other things. But if you're interested in politics, you can pretty much get all the information you need there. And be really well apprised of what's happening. So yeah.
Another one that I use all the time that I watch, Aaron Parnas is really good at delivering the news.
Oh
Always
yeah.
well, so I would definitely recommend to check out his Substack. He's really good.
And he's someone who just is making the transition from he's a video creator. And when I think there was a moment when we all thought TikTok was going away, which it still is, by the way, but where everybody was like, shit, I got to like figure out new stuff. And Aaron.
Uh-oh.
We lost our audio.
What? You have to disconnect that on your end.
Okay, sorry about that, you guys. My kid picked up my AirPods. Can you hear? I don't know what you were just hearing. I'm really sorry about that.
We actually weren't hearing anything. So
oh, okay, good. Yeah, my child. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so now Aaron Parnas is over on Substack with his videos, and it's cool. Like what I really like to see are video creators coming over to Substack because they don't suppress you there. And as Isaiah can probably tell you, I can certainly tell you because I make a lot of abortion related content. The suppression on TikTok is insane. It is next level. Anything, if I say the word abortion, I made a TikTok yesterday that had the word China in it. It got 1,000 views. Like, and that is a ridiculously small amount of views for me. Abortion, China, crime, guns, gay, it's absurd. Like basically anything that has to do with progressive politics, you can't say. Substack doesn't do that. Neither does actually Instagram, to be fair, and neither does YouTube, as far as I know.
There's like a whole like alphabet that you have to learn for
Oh yeah.
like all of this.
Oh yeah.
Unaliving for kill. There's like AB for abortion. Like I was talking to Harry Sisson about that. Look, you see, you have it, right?
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
it's crazy, you
Yeah.
know? See, what's the other one? The C country. I call China the C country.
It's ridiculous. It's very, very, it's like it feels very infantilizing that you have to do that, but you do. Otherwise, yeah, I said China and forget it. That video just died on TikTok. So
yeah, like you can't say like trans, you can't say gay, like I say T group, I say cool people. Like it's just like all kind of stuff. Like me and my friends, we've all like come up with like this special alphabet, like you just pulled up for what you can say.
It's weird making content for an algorithm versus content, for like, TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. Even our son has almost 400,000 followers on TikTok, and it drives him crazy that he has to make content for an algorithm. And he hates because he's a serious filmmaker, and he makes cinematic content, and it's fantastic.
Yeah,
but
right.
it drives him crazy that he's got to do it. He's got to make content for a robot. He hates it. And so it's weird for us as the Dangerous Ones and 11 Films making content for sometimes it's for an algorithm over here, and sometimes, for, like with X and, well, X is kind of that way too, but I mean, on the platforms where people share you more and can quote share you and stuff, it's just two different worlds.
That's how I know it's a digital war, because you have to speak in code like it's
Oh my God.
1942. You know?
And every post you make, like if you make one video, you got 7 different places you got to post it with seven different ways. You've got to be careful of how you post it, hashtags. What we were saying in the beginning, like if you ever want to get started doing something like this, it is absolutely true that it is a lot of work. It is, I mean, since we've moved in here, we have been, I mean, my eyelids are being held up by toothpicks. It is a lot of work. And I love every single second of it, to be honest with you. But it's not for the faint of heart. You'll figure it out, though. It's all good, yeah.
Question. So voter suppression, voter disenchantment could have probably played a significant role in the last election. So how are we going to message that going forward? Voting rights is one of my biggest issues, and certainly I came across that a lot just locally, knocking doors of my vote doesn't matter. And I think that is going to be a big thing for us in the next 2 years, making sure people realize how impactful their vote is. So what advice do you guys have to talk about that?
I think pretty soon here we'll be able to, like I was saying to somebody else, is the new car smell is going to wear off very quickly here with Trump. And, even with, these younger voters and stuff who thought, he was cool and all that, that's going to wear off. So one of the advice I could give is look around. If you don't vote, because this is happening because people didn't go out and vote. So if you don't vote, this will happen again, and this will keep happening. So what is currently happening is the greatest way I can explain to people why you need to go vote, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was kind of convoluted, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I branded this whole thing as the Great American Scam. I always use that. It's my messaging. I think that people need to know that it's a scam. And, like I said earlier, it's just reminding people about what does this do for you. And so, the second that people see all of this crazy BS, that has nothing to do with their lives, we just have to continuously call that stuff out. And then I think it's going to be important to the many people that, voted for us in 2020, but we want them to vote for us again. We got to make sure that the messaging is very simple. We can't just make them feel like, okay, Orange Man bad. Like, obviously he is. He sucks. He's terrible. But I know for myself, that wasn't good enough to get a lot of people off the couch, right? So we got to make sure that in this next era of pitching policies and pitching politics to people, it's consistently focused on when you vote, this is what you will get. And we also have to be realistic about the things that we're proposing, because it also doesn't do us any favors if we're proposing things that we know deep down inside that we'll never be able to do with the current composition of Congress and government and all that stuff. So making things very simple for people, and then just driving that message home about how we stand for them, the individual, in their own right.
Yeah, I think a lot of this current dilemma that we're in is like the logical extreme of people thinking that like small government is good and government doesn't affect me. Like the 90 million people who didn't vote, when you talk to people like that, and I do a lot of phone banking and canvassing, they say, I mean, politics doesn't, I don't do politics. Like, it just doesn't affect me. I don't have anything to do with it. And for those people, this is another way you can help us by making content, even if it's just posting a written post, explaining to people, again, connecting the dots. How does politics affect you? Because I've always wanted to do a TikTok live where I just say, name anything, and I will tell you how politics connects to it and how voting actually relates to it. I mean, anything. Just everything in our world connects to politics because it all connects to government. But people don't know that. They don't understand all the different government agencies doing all the stuff for them. Maybe they'll start to understand it when they've lost them all. But one of the things we can really do is to sort of counteract this message of like government bad with like bullshit. Government is there to help you when no one else will. Here's all the ways it does that. And that's a message I don't think we've hammered enough. I think actually Biden built a really effective cabinet. Every single one of his departments was doing incredible work. And a couple times I would make a video talking about like what the Federal Trade Commission was doing. And people were like, oh my God, I had no idea. I didn't know who Lena Khan even was. We blew it on that. And that's something I think now we're going to have a chance, because they're taking a wrecking ball to all of that, to really say that, you see now what's happening. Now that that's gone, we don't have this. This is the kind of thing that Democrats are really good at, is like, we know how to run these agencies to help you. Republicans only know how to tear them down. Lyndon Johnson said, and then I'll close with this, like, he said the difference between Republicans and Democrats is that Democrats know how to build and Republicans only know how to destroy. And like, anybody can tear a barn down. It takes a carpenter to build a barn. Like, our job is to explain that we're the carpenters. They're just the wrecking ball. And that's something that I think Republicans are going to help underscore, sadly.
That's 100%. That's 100% right. I would just say, just to add on that, we have to make sure that we're also telling people that what they're doing these cuts for. It's not like they're just doing these cuts just for the void. They're doing these cuts to go and help the mega yacht owner that owns a 3-story yacht or a G6 private plane go buy another one, or to go buy another mansion in Beverly Hills. That's what they're doing this for. $11 trillion was the last number of the tax cut bill that they're trying to go and ram through Congress right now as we speak. So while they're telling us that we can't get the monitors we need to go detect pollution in our air and our soil, that instead that money is better used sitting in the coffers of some billionaire on his yacht. And I think that when we brand it like that, people will understand the why. I think the biggest thing is that people can't just see the facts anymore. We have to give them a why, and a why that makes sense, a why that's plausible for them to really be able to follow.
Yeah, and I would
And
also
simplify the tax cuts, right? There's, $1,200 is about what the average American is going to pay more. And ask people, what would you do with $100 a month? What are you going to cut out losing $100 a month for Elon Musk to get a tax break? Because that makes people think, $100, it's like, so, I'm not going out to dinner, or, I can't pay for my Netflix this month because I'm going to lose $100.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say really quick that I personally am a firm believer that in 2020, Donald Trump would have won again had he simply done one thing, and that was got behind and protected the country from COVID and said, told people to get vaccinated. If he told people to wear a mask and he said, don't worry, I'm going to get you guys out of this. We're going to get through it. He made the biggest blunder of all time by going against science and all of that. And we all held him to the fire. And what we did was, when he made that mistake, at least 11 films, and every video creator I know made about a quadrillion videos in 2020, pointing out every single thing that was that he was doing wrong about that and how it was affecting us. And sure enough, he lost. So my point is that here, now that he's president again, every time he does something, we've got to call him out on it. As much as we sound like broken records, we have to do that. We have to call him, and he will do it.
Yeah.
And he's going to give us the fodder. Yeah.
Well, and not just that he's doing stuff, but how it impacts us as Americans. Like, that's the key. That's what Isaiah's been saying and Jessica's been saying about authenticity, telling that story from your individual perspective, whether you're a social media user or a alternative media outlet or a content creator.
Yeah, yeah.
The Republicans lower down off the hook, because they're just as responsible for this. So
I agree.
And I have seen comments about the SAVE Act in chat. That is coming up for a vote on the 24th. So stay tuned for a social storm on Thursday. Surprise, Nick.
Let's go.
So we will be doing a lot on the SAVE Act in the next week. So.
And that's just, so if folks don't know, that's a voting bill that would make it a lot harder for Americans to vote.
Yeah, you would have to prove your citizenship, which Sounds easier than it is. If you're a married woman or you're a trans person, a birth certificate would not be valid to prove your citizenship because your name on your driver's license wouldn't match your birth certificate. So then you would also have to bring in your marriage certificate. So tribal IDs, student IDs would no military IDs would no longer be allowed to be used to vote. So, yeah, it's so basically only a passport would be the only but only 51% of Americans have passports.
Yeah,
So,
because they're like $150. Like,
yeah,
now I'm
so
another 100 a month. Like,
and
The
so
one-
basically it effectively would gut and end online voter registration because you would not be able to prove your citizenship by registering to vote online. So they would effectively gut online voter registration in every state and territory.
But the one thing about it, though, I think that, is true is that it would be subject to the filibuster because it's not a financial bill, right? So,
Yes.
as long as there's not 7 Democrats to vote for it, it will not be able to become law. So I do think that
Yes.
it's important that we do push that to our audience because this is what they do all the time.
We need to make sure our Democrat representatives know that we are against it because we don't want some voting for it and the Republicans saying, look, it was bipartisan.
It is important, though. I've heard so many people freaking out about it as if it is going to pass. And again, people are like, why are you not making content? And I mean, I do like my newsletter, I do have scripts about it, but it can't pass. Like the Democrats, I don't want to be complacent about it, but I really don't see a world in which the Democrats allow it to, they're going to filibuster it.
Right.
Maybe before Lake and Riley. I don't know if you all know about the horrible Lake and Riley Act that a bunch of Democrats signed on to, but I think they've taken enough shit for that
Right.
that they won't make that mistake again. And the SAVE Act is really bad. It goes against everything Democrats represent. So unless they get rid of the filibuster, which
That's what I was going to say. We don't know if the filibuster will hold. So,
I agree. John Thune, I mean, look, I agree. Don't trust Republicans. Screw
Yeah.
them. They're all a bunch of weasels. But John Thune did say that that's not what he's going to do. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, it's a terrible bill. But I do not, personally, in my own opinion, do not see that becoming law.
I agree. And I think it's important that we if we get there's also this abortion bill that they presented. And again, that bill is not going to pass. So I worry when people get really worked up about bills because they don't understand the way Congress works. And I don't want people expending so much energy over things that can't pass when there are really bad things happening that we might be able to affect if we call. So I don't know. That's just my own thing. I try to steer
and
people.
I personally actually will post these bills so people know exactly what they're planning. Even, and I'll say it won't pass, but it's like this is who Republicans are. Believe them. And I will do huge long threads. I mean, I took 7 days of just abortion bills that they had introduced, and I think there were 12. Because that also lets people know who they are.
I think that's all a distraction for the fact that they're going to ban abortion using the EPA or the FDA. I just think that they're trying to distract people over here. They're going to do it all through agencies, right?
I agree with you. I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And that's the way we got to make sure that we're keeping our eye on the ball.
Right.
Because they're always going to do everything they can to get you focused every single different way. It's important that we do know about the things because we don't want to make sure that some Democratic senator just thinks he's going to pull a fast one on us and go through and just go vote for something while we're not paying attention. So it's important that we know, but the energy needs to be on what Jessica just said. The FDA stuff is coming up big. They're going to try to do this by executive action and try to see if they can weasel through the courts to get it done. That's the way I see it happening.
Whatever you're posting about, you need to be passionate about. So, because if that's what you care about, that's going to come across in your message, whether it's written, it's a video, democracy is my big thing. It's the thing I care passionately about.
Nice. I'm going to take off my dangerous ones hat and put on my Demcast hat and say we're 5 minutes over.
Yes, we are.
So,
I will send out links. Jessica, can you send me your links of your preferred Substacks? And then I will make sure tomorrow we send out a recording and how you can follow everybody who's been on this call.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks so much
everybody.
for joining, guys.
Thank you so much.
great conversation. Love y'all.
And we still have 62 questions we didn't get to, so I tried.
Oh,
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.